year of bringing you interesting information for Auburn and being able to share with you some of the goings-on that are going on in town before the newspaper days. So this morning, the moderator is going to be Stephanie DeVito, who is the Executive Director of Downtown Local Business Improvement District, better known as the BID. She's been on board there for almost a year, during which time many new downtown events and businesses have come online, and the organization has completed a Board of Directors work plan to set the course for the future. Her strong communication skills and established network have strengthened its working relationship with the city and with other partners as well. She will moderate this morning's program with 3 presenters. Each will speak for 10 to 12 minutes, and the session will wrap up about 9 a.m. After we get through any questions and answers. As a reminder, there are surveys on the table. If you would fill that out, we do read all of those, I promise, and try to react to what people are looking for. And if you have any questions that you want to pass towards the front, as the talks go on, we would appreciate that, and we'll take it from there. All right, thank you, Stephanie.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wednesday Morning Roundtable. It's so wonderful to see all your faces. We have new faces in the crowd, so welcome to everyone, and again, welcome back. So this morning, as Rob mentioned, we're talking about Downtown Economic Development Day, and I'd like to introduce our 3 presenters this morning. So we have attorney Dominic Giacona, we have Grant Kyle, and we have Dawn and Marc Schulz. First, I'm going to introduce Dominic Giacona. He is representing Grillo Companies and BG Reynolds. They are nearing completion of renovations to 10 to 14 Genesee Street, which has transformed the former Auburn Floors and Pickerillo buildings in 18 total upscale apartment units, with commercial spaces on the street level. These new commercial businesses include the Music Branch, offering music therapy, classes and workshops, and fine art space, and Weston Company Diamonds, our award-winning jeweler specializing in creating custom pieces of fine art quality. Please give me a warm welcome to Attorney Dominic Giacona.
Thank you for that introduction, Stephanie. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I must say, I am excited to speak to you about this project this morning. I should also say that if you asked me 3 years ago, if I'd be in this position so close to the completion of this project, that I'd be here assessing the project's progress over the past 3 years. I don't know if I'd be here with a completed project. I was just reminiscing with acting city manager Jeff Tiger this morning, who back in late 2013, early 2014 was, of course, acting fire chief. And this project had some significant structural concerns, which those type of issues come under the purview of the fire chief. So we're very fortunate to be here today. A lot of great things happened to make this project particularly successful. And what I hope to do today is to share with you some of the strategies that we went through to make this project financially viable and renovate 2 historic buildings in the city of Auburn that were in significant need of repair and renovation. So, just some information about the project in general. This involves the renovation of two historic buildings in the city of Auburn, colloquially known as the Auburn Floors Building and the Pickerillo Building, 10 and 12 Genesee Street in the city of Auburn. We're in the corner of Loop Road and Genesee Street. The overall project, both buildings encompass roughly 31,000 square feet of space that has recently been transformed into a mixed-use residential and commercial space. There are 3 commercial spaces, all on the first floor of the buildings. And these buildings are actually adjoined now with shared corridors and a common elevator for use in both buildings. Now, in addition to the 3 commercial spaces that are on the first floor, there are 18 residential units, 13 13 of those residential units are currently occupied. Remaining are one 2-bedroom residential unit, and the rest are single-bedroom residential units that are ready for rental. Well, soon to be ready for rental as soon as certificate of occupancy is granted to the city for occupation of them, which we're hopeful will be in the next 1 to 2 weeks, maybe sooner. As far as the residential living in these two buildings, we consider it to be a cross between condo living and hotel amenities. There will be various amenities in the building that should be advantageous for individuals who will be relocating to the downtown area, either from the outskirts of the city or from surrounding areas. We intend to have a valet service sometime in the next 2 months that will be able to take residents' vehicles and park them at adjoining lots or parking areas, so it will allow the residents to circumvent any long commutes, walking to and from the building and parking. Although that's one of the things that we think is such an advantage to this project. The idea of relocating to a downtown area that has had significant renovations and economic development in the last 5 or so years, an exciting time to be in downtown Auburn. In addition to the valet concierge service that will be available there also is an electronic, it's called electronic doorman. It's been installed into the building. What it allows you to do is, if you're a resident of the building, you can have your guests input your name on the keypad, which will automatically route to your cell phone as a resident. The resident has the ability to, via video, to see the person who's at the door, and he or she can choose to let that person in, unlock the door so they can come upstairs. Additionally, in the space that's in front of the two buildings, right now is being occupied by some dumpsters that have been helping to facilitate some of our construction needs. Of course, when the building is ready to be formally rented, those dumpsters will be removed, and we intend to have 2 loading zones there for individuals who would like to, in a short-term basis, park their vehicles there and transport things up and down to the various floors of the structure. Well, at this point now, roughly 3 years after project completion, I can say that there are quite a few things that we've learned. Before I get into those things, I would like to tell you a bit about the developers who endeavored into this project. This project has been spearheaded by Corporation DG Rentals, a corporate entity, a real estate holdings company that was formed by 2 Auburn natives, Brendan Grillo and Lee Vanderpool, in 2013. It endeavored to not just renovate these 2 buildings, but other buildings in historic downtown Auburn as well. This has been an interesting time. There have been a lot of projects that have come off the ground as far as renovations go. We're certainly eager to hear about some of those that'll be soon to come here after this presentation. But as I said in the beginning, I'd just like to share some insights with you that we knew in the beginning that may have helped to facilitate this process even sooner. Anybody who has an ambition to renovate and develop a mixed-use property should know a few things. First of all, especially with historic buildings, there are a lot of unknowns, which requires a significant amount of capital to put the project into the full vision that the developer so envisions. Of course, that requires money. One of the key things that a developer would want to be familiar with is the process of the consolidated funding application. It's a process that's been set forth by the governor several years ago to enable certain projects to receive certain state and federal monies, grants, to help facilitate the completion of a project. In this particular case, this was initially supposed to be a $3 million project, turned out to be a $5 million project. Our law firm, Giacona Law Firm, was able to secure a $1 million grant for these buildings, which certainly to make the project financially viable. What you'll find is oftentimes very close to making it financially viable. Sometimes the numbers don't quite work, which makes federal and state grants and funding so critical to completing a project. For people who wish to know, the consolidating funding application, the CFA, is typically submitted in June of each calendar year. In order to put yourself into a position to receive those grants, you'll need to develop a business plan, meet with an architect to develop plans for the project that you intend to begin, or meet with a general contractor or project manager to ascertain a general budget of how the project will go. You also may want to meet with an accountant or an attorney to aid the budget numbers, as well as putting together the business plan. Also, you'll want to contact the City of Auburn Planning Department. For our project, they were integral to this project's success. Jenny Haynes, Christine Selvig, Renee, Steve Selvig, all these people have been critical to this project's success and provided valuable resources to myself personally in trying to understand the consolidated funding application and any grants that were available out there. When you do contact architects for your project, you also want to contact those who are familiar with the State Historic Preservation Office. Oftentimes with the redevelopment of historic structures, there are stringent guidelines that the state will impose on you as far as making the project historically accurate, if you so intend to receive those state or federal funds. Certain architects that are familiar with those processes can actually put you into additional pots of money through tax credits, historic tax credits specifically. Tax credits and grants such as these natures can make the project even more financially viable if you're teetering on the edge. Some architects that we had the pleasure of working with that are very familiar with the State Historic Preservation Office and tax incentives are Crawford and Stearns in Syracuse. Also, Christine Selvig in particular at the City of Auburn can provide some very valuable information when it comes to state historic tax credits. After you contact those individuals, you also want to contact somebody either at the Auburn Industrial Development Agency or the Cayuga Economic Development Agency. They can facilitate help in obtaining grants for your project, give you some direction, and they also can set you up for possible mortgage tax exemption or sales tax exemption, among other things. And depending on your project size, they can provide significant financial help to make your project viable. After that, you'll want to contact the Regional Economic Development Council for our area. You can find a list of those individuals online, public officials. The chairman of the county legislature is typically on that committee. State assemblymen, our Auburn mayor, City of Auburn mayor is also on that project, or on that council. You want to contact those individuals on a separate basis to help rally support for your project, because what you'll find is if you've submitted a consolidated funding application, you do need to create support for your project and create excitement. You also may want to contact a construction manager, somebody to help manage the project depending on its size. In our particular case, we hired Rich & Gardner, construction firm out of Syracuse, specifically their president, Rob Sweetnowski, who's an Auburn native, spearheaded this project and was integral to the project's success. Can't say enough good things about those individuals. Some additional insight I can give you is roll the punches. Be ready to roll, because what you'll find is there are incredible unknowns with restoring existing structures to meet a particular purpose that you so intend. In this particular case, when the buildings were purchased, they were purchased for a fairly reasonable sum, considering they were in such dilapidated condition. But at the time that we purchased them, we weren't truly aware of the scope of structural integrity of particularly the Auburn Forest building. I'm sure many of was about to fall in the outlet. That's what we were concerned was going to happen. But at the time the buildings were purchased, this was not known. And this was not known is because there was only so much due diligence that could be done to determine the structural integrity of that building. The Auburn Floors building in particular hadn't had a roof in about 15 years. There was a gaping hole in the roof that water and other debris began to go through to such a regard that 3 of the floors had holes in them as well. So because it was unstable at the time of purchase, there really wasn't an ability to do your due diligence because you couldn't hire anybody that was willing to go in there under the circumstances. Except for me, of course. So you will have unknown costs particularly. In this particular case as well, there's unknowns regarding asbestos. We had budgeted for asbestos remediation when we sought out this project, but after we began to go along, we found out there'd be more remediation and air monitoring that would be required that elevated the project's costs. So when you do put together the business plan, what you want to do is you'll want to factor in a healthy contingency, healthy buffer. In this case, we factored in a 15% buffer, and it was still not enough to foresee all of the costs that we were going to incur. Additionally, you'll find, especially in the downtown area, it's critical to your success that you solicit support from your neighbors. Before this project got off the ground and was running, we solicited support from Hunter Steiner, who was gracious enough to let us use part of their property to make some of the repairs to our building. Hunter Steiner actually owns the strip of land behind the Auburn Floors building, believe it or not, that we required access to in order to fix the back wall of the Auburn Floors building. Also, we needed to work with the Dunkin' Donuts there, that's right next to the Auburn Floors building, because we're going to use a portion of their parking lot for a good portion of time. And also, we had to gain support and try to meet with some of the business owners downtown to make sure that their concerns were met, that our residents wouldn't be using their parking spaces. Still, there are concerns about that. But what we did was we put in our leases with our residents that they're not permitted to park on the city streets during normal business hours. These are things that we would not have envisioned if we hadn't reached out to our neighbors for their support and insight into our project. Overall, I think this is a really exciting time for Auburn. There's been a lot of movements here in the past 5 years that have given us all considerable reason for optimism. It's contagious, almost. But reach out to people. That would be my best piece of advice. There's so many individuals who are critical to this project's success that I haven't mentioned. So many people that have been willing to offer a hand and help. The Barlows, for instance, even though this project would directly compete with some of their endeavors, they were very helpful as far as putting together the consolidated funding application and rallying support for the project. So talk to people. I think what you'll find is there's such excitement in the area that everybody will be willing to help. I think questions are going to be reserved for the end of the program. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dominic. We're off to a great start. Now I'd like to introduce our second presenter this morning, and that is Grant Kyle of KyleCroft Development. Has purchased the old HSBC building. KyleCroft Development also purchased the adjacent Nolan Shoes block, slated for redevelopment this winter. The buildings will be completely renovated and upgraded to modern standards. An elevator, 33 private off-street parking spaces, common areas, rooftop decks, and storefront retail development will look to create big city living with all the conveniences of downtown Auburn. The renovation will include up to 5 new storefront spaces, as well as 16 additional 1- and 2-bedroom downtown living units. Please welcome Grant Kyle.
So you know. While that's loading, I'm Kyle. I'm with KyleCroft Development. It's a family-owned development operation on York Street. We're a smaller portion is our development. We're mostly a manufacturer on York Street under the names Northbrook Farms and IGK Equestrian, and a newly formed MBF Plastics, which is a new company that my brother started. I came back 8 years ago I grew up in Weedsport and came back to start a development company with my family. So these buildings are owned split 5 ways between all my family members. So KyleCroft is actually Gaelic for small land holding. It started out, we purchased the Brister Mills Lofts apartments on North Street, which is an abandoned C.W. Brister Perfect Mills, bought out back in 1980s. That was abandoned for about 20 years. We put in 7 loft apartments there that are currently being rented for the past 4 years, and we're doing 4 additional apartments right now. This is kind of a continuation of our desire to do brownfield, derelict property redevelopment. We also own the Auburn Spark Plug building, which Sept Community Action is our tenant there up front, and then we take it back 40,000 square feet for our other businesses. I've been new to the business 8 years ago, and learned a lot as well. I'm kind of on the opposite spectrum as Dominic is we're just starting, so I'm hopeful still, I think. And the pictures I have are mostly just showing you what projects are in the beginning. You can see how tough a building the Forest building was, and it's something that should be a lot of respect for what they did. I've been in that building 8 times before it was purchased by them, and I walked away every time. So I think that it took a lot of courage to do it, and I think they deserved all the help they got. So currently, we just closed on the building for First Niagara Home, the former HSBC, which is formerly the Marine Midland Bank. There are a lot of different opinions about the building. On my side, I'm an architecture lover, and I love the building, and we're not looking to tear it down, we're looking to keep it and split it into suites for commercial redevelopment. Up to 4 suites with common areas. There's an elevator in the building. So we're pretty much started, just everyone sees trucks and things out front. We've been demolishing just the old teller stations and getting it ready for some potential new tenants that are hoping to be in sooner or now. I'm a little bit late. So we're looking to be done by November with 1 tenant, and then another tenant may want to be in a similar timeline. But as I did not have the building, I couldn't finalize leases, so now that's what I'll be doing today. There's a couple challenges with the building. I think that we're going to try to avoid most of them by not moving heavy bank vaults. There are about 7 vaults in the building. Not sure quite yet how we're going to mull out, but they're all very interesting. It's an amazingly structurally sound building, as it's called the bunker by many. So it's definitely, if we're not changing any of the facades, we're going to be cleaning it up, we're going to be softening it, but we're not planning on resurfacing it. We're going to keep its architectural integrity. We have the original architectural plans that were filed with the city from the 1960s. So it's pretty much built just to that plan as it was designed, so we intend to keep it that way. The goal is softening will be through landscaping, architectural lighting, and then that we're hoping that will help people maybe enjoy it a little bit more. Also, it's been off the public view for so long. I think that a lot of people forget what it looks like on the inside. That's why I wanted to have some photos. It's truly an interesting building, and it has more light than my office does. Despite it looking like a bunker, all the windows are very large. And our goal is to keep it a community space, so banks are designed for public gathering, and I think that's how we want to tend to keep it, where people can come in and out.
It's not just going to be going to a private office where no one gets to go in and out. So we're hoping that as the community gets to go in it more often, maybe they'll start to enjoy it a little bit more than just from the outside. Because the style of architecture being brutalist, it's designed to be viewed, all of the outside is designed to be viewed from the inside out, not from the outside in. So when you go in there, all the slitted windows and all the bay windows and all the skylights are intended to create views out the building, which are actually quite incredible when you get in there, hopefully in November. This is the downstairs on the right is actually the vault. It has over 5,000 boxes in it. That's probably going to have to stay there. So we're not sure what we're going to do with it yet, but we're working on trying to incorporate it if we can. Otherwise, we'll just it'll be a very nice janitor's closet. There's just a couple more views. It's all poured concrete, coffered ceilings. Cayuga College has a building design just like this. This is their library. It's just similar to Everson or Johnson Museum. It's a very, not as a renowned architect that did it, but it's definitely someone who particularly was good at building these types of structures. It's a well-designed building. And despite it being built in the 60s, I can still make it functional in the flow of traffic. And I think that's pretty incredible that it's built so long ago at a different time that it's still functional. Here are some historic photos of when it was half there. So I guess they built it in two sections. It used to be the Auburn Savings Bank. I can't remember the name of it. And that's the building you see on the left up front, and that was the portion they knocked down that made the one-story section. But you see at the back section that it's actually half constructed. And these are just a couple of views of the building, just so people can see what it looked like. Despite people complaining about potholes, it looks like it's worse back then than Urban renewal was definitely a drastic change to the city, some good, some bad. I've met with Andy Broccoli through the building when I was trying to figure out how to approach the development of the building, whether funding is available to help me do it, and I decided it did not really fit well into any, it's not a historic building because it's not old enough. So it can't be applied for funding unless it gets special exemption. And I put Andy on hold until I could purchase the building and decide what to do next. But we're speaking with him about what our options are, possibly making a historic building. 4153 Genesee, otherwise known as the Nolan Block, is been condemned from previous times. We purchased it from Sept Federal Bank. In total, it's about 24,000 square feet, and it also has the downstairs walkout basement that goes to the back parking area that's part of the HSBC Bank property. That's where the parking spots are, and our intention is to put an elevator that goes the full 4 floors, so people can park in a private parking lot that's designated for the building and then travel to their apartments. The goal is to have a lobby entrance on the first floor, as well as the common community areas in the basement. Basements are dry and structurally sound, and in need of renovation and environmental remediation. The building has not been significantly renovated in a long time. We hired a clutter removal company, 5-star, to just pretty much get the building so I could actually take measurements. There was a lot of debris, and during the condemnation, people moved out in a hurry. You see some of the wallpaper from Nolan's original children's shoe store. So it's a lot of good memories for Auburn, and we're looking to bring it back to something that people will be proud of again. It's had many lives, dance studios, sound studios, offices, photography studios. I think a lot of people probably know someone who's been in that building at one point in time with a business. On the left is kind of the original, what it looks like, but there's not really much to be saved on windows and things like that. We're going to be doing full renovation, historic window renovation of everything. We're probably going to get rid of the tile. And the back structure there, parking, you can trailers are that we're going to be being able to have people enter from the backside. There are also a potential for one of the tenants with the garage door in the back, have a tenant that has some intention of loading in and out. Maybe we can have a pretty nice space as part of the storefront, so they can actually have truck entrance from the back. So in historic photos, you can see there's lots of life. Things have changed drastically through the years. Urban renewal wasn't the only time things were torn down. Cities progressed and ebb and flow, and I think that these combinations of historic and this Brugos building are going to be, I think it's an interesting exercise in seeing the passing of time in Auburn. We're intending to put 14 to 16 apartments. That's obviously preliminary. We've got architectural plans that we're working on, but we're trying to figure out where to put the elevator, so a lot of things are still subject to change. And then maybe 4 or 5 storefronts, depending on how much we can fit in the flow of common areas. We're waiting to do our renovations on Nolan Block until December because we applied for a Main Street grant in hopes of helping with environmental remediation and installation of the elevator system, which will be expensive. So we're not reimbursable for any expenses we have until December, so we won't see very much activity there. We're going to be doing all the pre-planning, environmental engineering, and architectural plans, so that when we finally start in the dead of winter, cold and snow, hopefully we'll have all of our plans already set in place. So that's there's a lot of I'm in the beginning of this, so I think there'll be a lot of changes. You'll probably hear about it. This is kind of just a first introduction, and hopefully I'll be able to show you more architectural prints probably in the next month or so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Grant. Our final presenter this morning are actually 2 people that we know probably very well. It's Dawn and Marc Schulz. They own and operate Prison City Pub Brewery and the Copper Pig Barbecue and Tap Room in the heart of downtown. These eateries have put Auburn on the map with their creation of national award-winning craft beers and high-quality and affordable pub fare. Current space limitations have challenged their need for expanded beer production, and the concept of a riverfront farmers marketplace is being explored to accommodate growth and new industry offerings. Please help me welcome Dawn and Marc Schulz.
Morning. Morning. I don't know if I need a microphone. I might move around a lot. Thanks for having us. Certainly exciting times in Auburn. And give you a little scope about our business, particularly Prison City Pub Brewery, because I think that is pertaining to this conversation in economic development, that's probably the most significant part of our business is to the city and the county. So the question we get asked the most is why open in Auburn? Well, first and foremost, we moved here in 2001. Dawn's family's from the area. Something really nervous. And we have 3 kids, and I wouldn't lie, there was a period where we talked about maybe moving to maybe Rochester or another area, and wouldn't be fair to our kids to pull them out of the school system. Our son Liam's 15, he's had the same friends since kindergarten. And then we would look at a beer map. I mean, we moved in 2001, I think we started talking about this project in 2014, so it's over a decade of thinking about a brew pub. We've owned restaurants, this is actually with Copper Pig, our 5th that we've owned. So we're restaurant people. We look at this beer map and we see Rochester, all these breweries, Syracuse, around the Finger Lakes, and Cayuga County. There's a huge gap. I'm a huge beer fan. I like to go out and have a nice pint of beer while I'm eating my burger, and there wasn't a lot of offerings in this immediate area, so we'd be traveling to Ithaca, Syracuse, outside of town. It's not to diminish any of the restaurants that are in this town, they just weren't delivering what I was looking for. Then we opened Bistro One, and I started meeting all these other people that were really similar to me, these beer nerds, people that were thirsty for a better glass of beer, and then they started pushing me, like, open a brew pub, open a brew pub. I'm like, I don't think a brew pub's gonna work in Auburn, open a brew pub. Let's open a brew pub. So, like these cats, we looked at every we are. We opened the doors in December 2014, and it's been an immediate wild ride. So we were convinced that improved public work in Auburn. We thought the community would embrace it. They certainly have. We did not anticipate the avalanche that would come after that. Starting with going, and just on a whim, my wife over here, dealing with Ben Maso and myself, saying, nah, we don't need to enter that, we're not ready. She's like, we're entering. So we go to Denver, and if you don't know what GABF is, it's the Great American Beer Festival, where every American brewery enters their beers into competitions, and you get awarded silver, gold, bronze, right? So we're sitting in the audience just watching these people get their awards and enjoying it, just soaking it in. And all of a sudden you hear, Lee Wharton, Prison City Pub Brewery, Auburn, New York. Ben's hands are in the air. Dawn is screaming words that I won't repeat in this room. And I'm just shaking my head like in disbelief. So it really starts there, and we come home, and obviously the citizens writing articles, Democratic Party, so now we're on the map. People are now all of a sudden turned on, like, that's legit. What are these guys doing over there? So people in Buffalo, Rochester, New York City, Boston are traveling to Auburn, New York to try some of our beer. And if I do a horrible presentation, I should win because we're actually handing out beer. So we win on that. Sorry guys, you did great, but we win. So on top of the GABF, not only does it put us on the map with like beer nerds and people piquing interest, but Fortune magazine takes interest, and they give us a shout out in a publication as one of the hits, one of the surprises at GABF with our sour beers. That opened a lot of doors. Suddenly, I already said that as well. Not only that, but at the same time, Playboy magazine nominates us, our Run Like an Apricot as one of the top 8 beers or 9 beers in New York State. So now, rewind to like 13, 15-year-old Marc Schulz has a business and a beer that's in Playboy magazine. At the very time they stop printing the magazine, it's online only. So one time, I'm going to pick up the magazine. Never mind, you see where we're going with this. So suddenly, we're on this map, and where we are today is, we started talking about it, I guess, 6-8 months ago, realizing, and knowing the community real well, having lived here for 15 years, the majority of our business comes from outside Auburn. We thought it was around 60. We think it's actually about 75% of our business is traveling to Auburn. And now, you're probably familiar that our Mass Riot IPA, again, because my wife just loves to take chances and get us out there, submits it for Pace Magazine's IPA blind tasting. We got notice about a couple of weeks before the final. They said, hey, if you have any more fresh beer, you might want to send it. You guys are in the top 20. We were floored. That's a win. We're high-fiving. We're like, holy smokes, we're in the top 20, and these are all of our favorite beers. I'm driving Liam to school. I think it was the first day of school. No, it's just football practice. And I got a text from our assistant brewer. We got number 1.
Yeah.
My reaction was, Liam, you're going to be late for practice. I pulled over and scrolled through, and I'm looking at all these beers that Dawn and I traveled, Massachusetts to Vermont to get, and there's Prison City Pub Brewery's IPA number 1. So now it further puts us on the map, and it puts pressure on us now. Like, what are we going to do? Because all these people are going to want to try this beer. So 2 weeks ago, Sunday, we did a batch of the beer. Now, when I say a batch, we're tiny. We have a 5-barrel system. What does that mean? It means every time we make a batch of beer, we get 10 kegs out of it. But because of the hops we use in this beer, in this batch, we get 8. The last time we did this beer in July, we went through 8 kegs in 8 days. That is a tremendous rate. So now, we want to share this beer. We want to see what will happen. So we announced we're going to crowd 120 cans of this beer for our kegs. That's over 2 kegs of beer that we dedicated just to put into those cans to release it, because we knew people would come to Auburn to buy it. And we prepared, we decided, we released it. So we don't know if this is going to be 10 people showing up for this or 300. Well, I don't know if anybody took a stroll by Prison City Pub Brewery on the 11th, but there were over 90 to 100 people waiting in line at 10:30 in the morning to try a stupid beer. But it was pretty remarkable. At the end of the day, we had over 500 visitors at the pub. Almost all of them from out of town. There were certainly our locals that came, people from town that wanted to witness it, you know, kind of rubberneck it, check the place out. So we're going to do another release on Monday, but just draft only because we are such a small brewery. We're trying to ramp up capacity. We actually spent a good chunk of change yesterday on some more fermentation tanks that'll be arriving in a couple of weeks so we can increase our capacity. We're looking to double our capacity. And yes, we are looking to build a production facility, but that's easier said than done, right? We've got a project that's about 4 years in the making. We've got projects that these things take time. So yes, we are looking to do a production facility, but we will continue to expand the pub. We're doing right now numbers in our second year that we thought we'd be doing in years 3 and 4. So it's been remarkable. Copper Pig, that was just a fortuitous situation where property became available. We had barbecue in our heads. We did not anticipate opening a second restaurant, having just opened one 2 years before. That has certainly been a win. The community has definitely embraced it, was certainly hungry for a barbecue restaurant. And that's what's so interesting is that the Copper Pig is becoming more of like we see a lot more local business there than we do at Prison City. And so we've got a real nice balance. I don't think that we're done yet. We've got a couple other things up our sleeve that we're not certainly ready to announce, but a couple more projects. But number one is expanding capacity at Prison City and looking to do a production facility. Because if we can get 500 people in Auburn on a random Sunday for just 100 crowlers of beer, imagine how many people will come to town if we have 1,000 cans, cases of beer. So we're excited about that. We challenge ourselves every day to get better at what we do, from the plate of food that's in front of you to the beer we're doing. We're putting ourselves out there. We've actually got a couple more hits just yesterday. A writer out in New York City declared Prison City is one of the top 10 beers from the Northeast to check out as we go back to Denver for Great American Beer Festival. Actually, 9 kegs are in a car heading to Brooklyn Brewery right now. And small little kegs. She's driving slowly. So we're excited, but we're sending a sour beer, our Mass Riot IPA, and what you have in front of you is a beer we call Puff Puff Shiv. It is a brown ale in which we aged over 50 boxes of Cocoa Puff cereal. So it is one breakfast beer, and if you're looking to transport back in times when you would eat the Cocoa Puffs and sip the milk at the bottom of that bowl, that's exactly what that beer tastes like. I'm racing through this thing. I think I've covered everything we wanted to cover, and thanks. Cheers.
Thank you very much. So let's give another round of applause for all of our presenters. Wednesday Morning Roundtable, can you go and get a breakfast beer and have it considered your breakfast? So thank you. I'd like to open this portion of the morning to questions and answers. If anybody has anything they'd like to give the presenters and inquire about. Come on, I know you have something you're dying to know. Okay, yes.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm so impressed and fascinated with each of these projects. My question is, how do you see the connective tissue between the different projects and between the community in general? How do you make each one of these wins, into a greater quilt for Auburn and surrounding area?
I'm standing and all eyes are on me. Well, I think having traveled around upstate a lot, and you see these other communities where there's a resurgence of businesses moving back downtown, and it's all components. It is restaurants and eateries, but it's retail, and it's that city living atmosphere. People want to live back downtown, especially younger couples. They want to have those conveniences. So I think in order for the city to progress, all these projects really do need to work in concert for all of us to be successful. And I feel like there is a camaraderie. Yes, it's competition, but we firmly believe in rising tides lift all boats, and I feel like everyone that's tackling a project in the city right now has that mentality. Like we will do this together. Yes, we're business people and we're in it to make money and provide for our families, but we want to see this city succeed. And I feel like all these projects together are fueling that.
Berkman Associates has done a lot of studies in the city trying to figure out what's the best way to keep the momentum going, and it's about connecting Copper Pig and our buildings are a giant gap in the storefront that's not letting people walk from the areas that's doing well, which is going west on Genesee Street, where the renovations happen. So we find that we need to connect their buildings with ours, will actually make people travel down further and further, the retail and the restaurants further down the road. And if he wasn't down on the other side, they hadn't done, there would have been more vacant buildings in between. I think all synergies together are going to make it more effective at getting out of town people walking down the streets and people from Auburn.
It's a synergy, it really is. It all synergizes. You have residents that are looking to live downtown, living in Grant's buildings or BD Rentals buildings. We're looking to eat at Marc's restaurant. We're looking to work or visit businesses in our commercial spaces or some of the other surrounding areas. So it's such a wonderful blend medley of all these things that are going on that are the perfect synergy for the development we've seen. It's been great.
You know, and I might just add as well to what you all have said from a bid standpoint. You know, working with all these individuals and all the people that are wanting to come downtown. I mean, it's incredible to see the collaborative partnerships between everybody. And as we all know, and as they all said, that's what makes it work. Is when we collaborate together, we work together, it's magically that success happens. So, you know, it's wonderful to see, and everyone helps everyone out. Any other questions? Rob?
Mark, one of the questions we've gotten over the paper a couple times is obviously the discussion about where you want to put your brewery, you know, has been out there. Can you kind of say, I guess one of the things that kind of keeps coming up is why don't they move into X, you know, right, insert building name here? Why, I mean, is there a plus or minus to doing that? I mean, building a new building versus renovating something we already have, or where does that kind of stand?
Yeah, so as I had discussed, we literally have looked at every building and property that's in the city. Trust me, if it's vacant, we've been in and out of it. So to answer the question, there is no right or wrong. We certainly want to put the new project in the city for a lot of different reasons, mostly for convenience of our business. Renovating can be tough because with the brewery, there's a lot of plumbing that's involved, so it has to be the right space for that. So, and then it's just, it's economics. Does it make sense to build a new property somewhere, or does it make sense to renovate? And that's what we're exploring right now. Also, we have to consider, there are properties that we've looked at that might, that on the short look like a good option, but we have to consider expansion. So if a building is 4,000 or 5,000 square feet, it works right now. But where is that in 5 years if we continue on this path that we're on, and there's no signs of craft beer in the United States slowing down at all? There's over 4,000 breweries in the United States right now, with 1,000 in planning, and everything's moving back to local like most businesses are. So I guess that's the kind of long way to get short question is we have to explore everything, and there's so many components that are involved in making that decision. And we want to make the right decision the first time so that we don't have any regrets with it. We love the building we're in, love it. The only but is we don't have room to expand there. We're gonna hit a wall here real quick. In fact, when the fermenters and the bright show up, we're at capacity. We can only double. So we're gonna do about 400 barrels this year, which translates into about 800 kegs. So we'll double, that'll give us about 800, so 1,600 kegs. That's still not enough beer. It's an awesome problem to have. But it's also frustrating because we deplete beer. Like right now we can't even, I'm rambling. But there's a lot of factors into making a decision. We want to make sure it's the right one so that it's successful right out of the gate. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. But you brought up another one. You're looking at downtown. I mean, obviously my business is located downtown, across from here. Why do you want to stay downtown?
I guess just because it's the right thing to do. That's the way we look at it. If we get all this traffic coming to Auburn, we'd like to see it continue. We live here. So we've been offered, I guess I could probably disclose this, Ithaca Trip Hammer Mall was throwing money at us to go down there and open, but it's an hour away. And how does it fit to Prison City? People from Ithaca don't have to travel to Auburn because they can get our beer there. What does that mean? You know, the new casino was after us. But we want it to be in downtown Auburn. This is where we live, and if we want to see the city succeed, and we're going to put our money where our mouths are and build it in the city.
We want you to stay here.
Well, the Seahawks stay no matter what.
Grant?
Do you have any problems getting local New York hops in barley, malted barley?
We're not having a problem. It's out there. Our problem is we're not a farm brewery, number one, because we're a pub and brewery. We're so small. The ingredients are still in their infancy. We see hop farms everywhere, and we see malt. The problem is the quality's not there. And we don't win #1 IPA, and I say this with a lot of respect to the people that are doing these hop farms right now, but we don't win best IPA with New York State hops right now. The hops that we're using, the hops that the beer people want are from New Zealand and the Pacific Northwest, and those are those big, juicy, tropical hops. Our hops are more meant for like lager beers. Because, you know, it's like Riesling. Our hops are similar to why our Rieslings are so good. Because they're on that same latitude, that area that grows like Cascade hops and whatnot in Germany, Hallertau and whatnot. It's the same profile. We'll certainly use local ingredients. It's not trouble getting them, but we need to work with these guys to improve their quality. And it'll take time. They'll get there.
Any other questions? Yes, Steve.
Yeah, are there any insights into what the market is for residential development and your rental rates and how they compare to just, you know, people living around downtown in rental homes, and just any insight into, you know, I'm sure Grant is optimistic that you're going to fill up, and you're already filling up, so.
You're running.
Well, just a few points. You know, we conducted some extensive market research because we wanted to know the answer to that exact question. Before us, the Barn Lotus buildings, their residential lofts on Logan and the State Street area, they were filling up, and they were having no problem doing so. But we didn't know if the market was saturated. We had no clue. But what we found is there's a whole host of people that are interested in downtown living. It's not just young people. I think that's kind of the stereotype. But there's a lot of other individuals. There's empty nesters, people who are looking to downsize and having a more manageable piece of property. They'd rather not maintain the upkeep on home. People that are Florida snowbirds, people that spend their winters down in Florida and their summers in New York. Those people want to live downtown too, and be close to the eateries and other functions in downtown. So it's not just that there's a few subsets of the market. It's growing. You know, it's almost like people are learning what they're interested in. So I don't know if we have any grasp on what the market will bear as far as residential lofts go. It's really exciting for our downtown.
They're saying that there's a demand for up to 200 downtown apartments additionally, based upon like the studies the city's been working on. I think that seems a little optimistic, but I think that's, I guess it grows as you do more. Our lofts on North Street do fill regularly at certain rates. I think downtown with off-street parking for us, we could probably charge even a little bit more. I think a lot of it determines what you can rent and who you're renting to, of how you design your apartments. Our North Street apartments are mostly young, a lot of walk-up, a lot of people with dogs. I think there's a lot of factors that bring different people. I think the rates with new, renovated, expensive property development, they tend to be high-end. I'm trying to find a way to get a little lower cost apartments. And it is hard because of how much the historic buildings take. But that's something we're trying to make an effort on this project, is to have some lower cost apartments downtown. I think if I could build an apartment for $900 a month or $800, I could fill all day long, every day, with waiting lists, but I haven't been able to do that yet.
If not, once again, thank you so much for attending our faculty summit.